All right, what's going on, everybody? So this is my top 10 games of 2018. Now, before I get to the list, quick disclaimer. This year wasn't the greatest year for me in terms of how many games I beat. Last year, I beat about 30 games. This year, I did a count, and I think it was like maybe 14. Because this year, there just didn't happen to be that many games that I liked. So pretty much, I'm picking a list of 10 games out of 14. So you can imagine some of these games literally only made it on the list because there just wasn't that many games this year that I happened to like and beat, unfortunately. So had a few of these games that are on my list come out in any other year, a few of them would probably have never made my list. But because of the circumstances of this year, then yeah, they're making my list. So let's get to it. So number 10 is NBA 2K Playgrounds 2. Now, even though I like NBA Playgrounds 2, the fact that this has even made it into my top 10 clearly shows you it's slim pickings, okay? Listen, the game was fun. It was arcadey, it was flashy, and I enjoyed it for that reason. It was, it was cheap fun. Listen, it was pretty much, to round out the number 10 spot, it was either this or Shadow of the Tomb Raider. And Shadow of the Tomb Raider, I was just so disappointed in that game. I just wouldn't feel right putting that on my top 10 list, okay? I felt disrespected and just very underwhelmed by what that game turned out to be. At least NBA, 2K Playgrounds 2 was exactly what it should have been. It's a, cheap little fun, downloadable title, quick game, some arcade basketball fun. So that game turned out what it was. It was fun for the moment. I had fun playing online and everything like that. They made improvements over the last game. So, yeah, I thought it was a decent game. I doubt there'll be an NBA, Playgrounds 3, but, 2 did make some improvements. So let's move on to number 9. Number 9 was Unravel 2. I was a big fan of the first game, and I know some people, probably wouldn't give this game a chance or the time of day because of its appearance, but the main thing I like about it is the physics-based puzzles. I think this game has just great level design and great puzzles, and just a great overall presentation. The game looks absolutely, gorgeous. And, it has like an underlying theme, not necessarily a story, but like a theme. So, and this is something that I actually played with my wife, and, she's not really a gamer, but she just happened to pick up the controller and start playing, and she caught on really quick. And what's different about, this one from the first game is they've catered the puzzles for a co-op experience. So even though you don't have to play in co-op, you still have to utilize and solve the puzzles in a way that utilize both of the characters and the physics-based puzzles. So, I just really like the game. So that's my number 9 game. My number 8 game is going to be Shadow of the Colossus. So, Shadow of the Colossus to me it's a top 5 game of all time. But the reason it's in my top, it's higher on rather lower on my list, depending on how you look at it, is because I'm not measuring this game like it's an original release. Okay, so I played it all the way all the way back then when it initially came out. I was amazed by it then. It is an amazing remake. Love the story. I love the improvement to the visuals. I just love the challenge of like taking on each of these colossi and how each one is like modeled different, and the mystery in the game, and how the colossi are just like these giant monsters that you have to take down. It's like a giant obstacle course and scaling them. I just think that's an amazing experience. But yeah, so like I said, the only reason it's at number 8 is because this is something I've experienced before, and I'm not like putting the game at the same weight as an original release. But yeah, I actually love that game. It's probably always going to be in my top 5 games, favorite games of all time. So yeah, that's number 8. Number 7 is Darksiders 3. This game has, it has very split opinions. Some people have said it's terrible. Some people have said it's amazing. Usually, when you have such a split crowd, and it's always interesting that a few people, because there's not a lot of games where some people say, you have so many people saying they love it, and then so many people saying it's garbage, right? Usually, a game is usually a little bit more one-sided. Usually a little bit more one-sided. And when you look at Metacritic, now even though I don't put any weight into Metacritic, because, that's nothing but other people's opinions, but out of curiosity, I look there sometimes, and Darksiders 3 literally has every score from a 2 to a 9. So people are obviously having very different opinions. I'm on the side where it's on the spectrum of being a better game. I had a very good experience. I mean, I like the voice acting. I like Fury as a character. I like the combat system. I like the fact that you had to back travel. I like the difficulty, the challenge, the bosses. I like most things about this game. And the reason, honestly, it's like what was I up to? 7? I think I was up to 7. Number 7 on the list is because there are some bugs. I ran into a pretty game-breaking bug that I'm actually waiting for them to fix. So it is with its technical problems, but I think the gameplay is very fun and solid. It's like I explained in my impressions, it's a old school God of War and Souls type game. So yeah, I've really been enjoying it. So yeah, it's number 7 for me. Number 6 is Call of Duty Black Ops 4. Now everybody knows, I've said a lot of times, I'm not necessarily your typical Call of Duty fan. I don't even consider myself a Call of Duty fan. So if I give this game credit, it has to be at least decent. And I think, they just did a great job of Call of Duty Black Ops 4, specifically on the PC version. I felt like using the mouse and keyboard made a huge difference for me. I really enjoyed that experience. I thought the online was pretty balanced. It had good maps. Blackout mode was really fun. Honestly, it is the best Battle Royale mode game out right now. The only thing people would debate that with is Fortnite. And even with that, it just comes down to a matter of taste. And, if you don't want, the funky stylings of Fortnite, you'll probably just prefer Blackout. Even though I started playing PUBG on PC, you loved it. You really have no reason to play PUBG if Blackout is available. The only, difference is I would say PUBG is a little bit more tense and suspenseful. But we know as far as, performance and visuals, looks worse than Blackout, looks worse than Fortnite, runs worse than those. And like I said, overall, I just enjoyed all the other multiplayer modes outside of the Blackout mode. And, it didn't really bother me that there wasn't any, conventional story. So, yeah, Call of Duty Black Ops 4 is number 6. Number 5 is Detroit Become Human. So, I love Quantic Dreams games. I thought Heavy Rain was really good. For the record, they are better at what they do than Supermassive Games, even though people, like to hate on Quantic Dream and slander them. They are the best in the business at creating these story driven, interactive narrative games and everything, whatever exactly you want to specify it as. They are the best at what they do. Okay, and I think Detroit Become Human, I really enjoyed the story. So, parts of the story were a little bit too on the nose with its comparisons to discrimination and civil rights and all that stuff. It was a little bit too on the nose. They could have been a little bit more subtle with it, because that would have made it a little bit more clever. And sometimes it does bother me when video games use actual real life actors and their likeness. And pretty much their actual use that person for mocap and all that, because it kind of takes me out of the game. It takes away the immersiveness for me, especially if I know that character, that actor, and I've watched a show with that actor. Because I watched Grey's Anatomy, where I can't remember his actual name, But the guy who plays as well, shit, he's Avery Jackson, I believe, in Grey's Anatomy, and he plays Marcus in in Detroit Become Human. I can't remember his real name, but you know, when I'm playing this game, all I can see is the character from, you know, the TV show. So sometimes I don't like when they do that. But the visuals, probably amazing visuals. One of the best, cleanest looking games we've seen. Great voice acting. It had a very expansive, you know, possibility tree with different decisions that led to different endings. And I think it, even though there was one main character that I really cared about, you know, their story I really cared about, overall, all three were still pretty decent and fun to play as. So, yeah, Detroit Become Human was, and it took me a while to get into the game. I had it for a while, but I just wasn't in the mood to play that type of game. But once I got in the mood to play it, I couldn't put it down, you know. So I really enjoyed Detroit Become Human. So that was number 5. Number 4 is Battlefield 5. Now, listen, of course, I just put out my Battlefield 5 review, so I don't got to get too deep into this. I know it's the thing to hate EA because they're a scum company. Trust me, I agree. They are a scum company. But that does not make Battlefield 5 a bad game. The multiplayer is fun. It's balanced. It's a good game. I mean, the war stories did falter a little bit in comparison to its predecessor. The war story that came out post-launch, where you play as the Nazi commander, was probably the most riveting story. It was probably the best one. But overall, as a package, they were decent, even though they weren't as good as the first one, as the ones in Battlefield 1. But like I said, of course, visuals look great, even though I feel like they've hit a ceiling as far as that goes. The multiplayer is definitely fun. It's something I'm going to continue to play. So yeah, I just been enjoying Battlefield 5, and it's definitely a good game when you separate the game and the product away from its evil company. Okay, so yeah, Battlefield 5 is number 4. Number 3 is Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, as much as people think I hate this game, I don't. It's number 3. Okay? I'm just objective enough that I can clearly see the good points with this game and the bad points. This game has a lot of pros, but it has several cons also that really diminish and really ruin the experience no matter how people want to be in denial about it. The game, once again, has terrible controls, terrible aiming, terrible movement, okay? Terrible input lag. Some of this stuff can be proven. It's not even opinion no more. Anybody who's still in denial about it, that's exactly what you are, in denial. I don't know what to tell you. So, in my review, I probably made my longest review I've ever made. It was like 22 minutes for Red Dead because it's such a huge game in scope, and I explained, you know, very descriptively all the flaws in it, and some people still couldn't understand, and I still gave the game an 8.8, which is not a bad score at all. It just wasn't a masterpiece because of its flaws. But this is a game I still enjoyed. It was just like everything you do was kind of tainted because everything you do in the game is it includes movement. It includes aiming. You know? So if those mechanics are interwoven into everything you do, it affects the entire game. So that was my only, you know, that was my problem with Red Dead. But the story is top notch in Red Dead. The score, you know, the score and the music is good. The story is better than the gameplay, honestly. You know, and there's a lot of like, you know, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors when it comes to Red Dead that people sometimes don't see because they're so, you know, Rockstar does this trick where they put so much in the game and they wow you with the size of their game that people kind of miss other things where it's very empty and very vain and has no substance, right? So, but I saw through that. But you know, like I said, I still did enjoy Red Dead. So it's number 3 for me. Number 2 is Spider-Man. Spider-Man was pretty much my Game of the Year runner-up. You already know my Game of the Year, so you know what number one is going to be. Spider-Man had, good combat. Spider-Man was the most fun game of the year, okay? Because when you just tap into the dimension of fun, a lot of games offer something different. And a lot of people, interpret fun differently. But Spider-Man wasn't the best game of the year, but it was absolutely the most fun. It was probably more fun than what my actual game of the year is, right? When we're talking about the pure essence of fun, just joy of doing something. And, web swinging, combat, the fun, semi-original story, they took some liberties with it. All that was enjoyable. The core of the game was enjoyable. The fault that it had was like kind of these empty side missions that got really repetitive, especially if you were going to get the platinum. If they were able to diversify their side missions and everything like that a little bit more, then it wouldn't have gotten tiresome and repetitive and just mundane. But they kind of unfortunately fell victim to what a lot of open world, sandbox games to be specifically, what a lot of sandbox games, because this is sandbox, it's not open world, we're just in Manhattan. A lot of games like this fall victim to. But other than that, Spider-Man was just a very fun experience. If it wasn't for web swinging, if they didn't get the web swinging right, a lot of other things in this game would not have been tolerable, because the other things you had to do, you only didn't mind doing it because web swinging was so good. They got that perfect, so everything else was just more manageable to do. So yeah, I enjoyed Spider-Man, and it was just pure fun when you think about what that really means. And number one for me, so Spider-Man was number two. Number one is God of War. Do I really have to explain this? God of War was a masterpiece in every sense of the word, okay? Story, controls, concise movement, it had these somewhat deep RPG elements. It had nuance to it, with the armor sets and the and all the magic and special moves you can unlock, and it just had a lot of depth that I didn't expect and a lot of people didn't expect, with the amount of content and with the amount of management you had to do as far as managing Kratos, and his attributes, right? So it just got the game just had a lot of depth, great story, great visuals, just an amazing experience and project. It's clearly a standout of this generation, probably the best game of this generation in my opinion. Like I said, we'll have to see what Last of Us and a few other games might dethrone it, but only fault with God of War probably was not as many bosses. It had a lot of mini bosses that were like duplicates with just small alterations made to them. But God of War was absolutely amazing. So yeah, that is my top 10 games of the year. A few of these that are on the list I'm not exactly proud of. Like I said, some of these probably wouldn't have made it on my list if they had come out any other year, but it's been that type of year. I don't think this is the best. This wasn't the best year of gaming, as far as like there weren't a whole lot of amazing games. There were a few amazing games, and the rest of them were just okay. So yeah, I am going to be making the list for my top 10 most anticipated games for 2019. That's going to come out sometime this week too, so make sure you check that out. In the comment section, let me know what your top 10 games are. List them out in the comment section. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure check out the links in the description, and follow me on all the social media links. Make sure you subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you can know anytime I go live. And yeah, I will check y'all next time. I'm out of here, y'all. Peace.